Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this joint workshop by the Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways and the Cook County Bureau of Economic Development's Department of Planning and Development. I'm Jesse Elam with the Department of Transportation and Highways. I'm joined by my colleague Laura McFadden, also from my department, as well as several colleagues from the Bureau of Economic Development who will be introducing themselves once we get to that part of this presentation. And we are here today to give an overview of the Invest in Cook Transportation Grant Program, as well as the Community Development Block Grant Program. Both of these programs do a lot of good in helping communities fund the infrastructure projects they need. I'm excited to say that the application period is open for both of those grants right now. So the way we have this set up is the Invest in Cook presentation, as well as the question and answer period for Invest in Cook is going to last 1 hour or less. And then beginning at 2 o'clock, the Department of Planning and Development, Bureau of Economic Development, will begin their presentation on the CDBG block grant program and the application process for that. So as we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. You should be able to see on your screen a chat button that will allow you to ask questions at any time while we're presenting. We're going to hold those questions to the end of our presentation. At that point, we're going to do our best to answer those questions, and we will go through any questions we received in the chat at that point, as well as take any questions verbally that you might have. And then the Department of Planning and Development's presentation on CDBG is going to begin at 2. Both of those presentations are going to be recorded and then posted to our respective websites for later viewing at your convenience. And for viewing by anybody who was unable to join this meeting in person or live, I should say. And then those recordings are going to include the questions that are asked and the answers provided during each of the workshop sessions. As a final housekeeping item, please put yourself on mute so that we won't have too much background noise. So I appreciate that. And so with that, let's begin. I'll hand it over to Laura. Laura, I'm unable to hear you.
Thank you. I had muted myself too effectively. But thank you everyone for attending today's Invest in Cook CDBG Joint Applicant Workshop. We are excited to share these programs with you. Under the leadership of President Preckwinkle, the Department of Transportation and Highways transformed how we operate as an agency. In the past, the department focused our work curb to curb, but DOT's program now takes a multimodal approach to transportation. This is best illustrated by Connecting Cook County, the county's first long-range transportation plan, published in 75 years, first published in 2016. 5 principles outlined by the LRTP create the framework DOTH uses to plan for the future while implementing sound transportation policies and investments. Those 5 policies are: prioritize transit and other transportation alternatives, support the region's role as North America's freight capital, promote equal access to opportunities, maintain and modernize what already exists, and increase investment in transportation. The Invest in Cook grant program is a direct outcome of the LRTP. The grant selection process strongly prioritizes projects that help implement the 5 priorities for 21st century transportation that were identified by the plan. The Invest in Cook program was created to support the ongoing implementation of the plan. All of the funded projects meet at least one of the 5 priorities set out in Connecting Cook County. Additionally, the program is multimodal. Now in its 5th year, this successful program has funded over 160 projects all across the county and all across modes, from bike ped, transit, freight, and roadway projects. They have all received awards. Notably, the program is able to fund early stage studies that position projects for other fund sources that might only cover design and construction costs. As a result, many of the projects selected and funded are in the planning or preliminary engineering phases, creating a pipeline of projects in the region that are positioned to be eligible for funding from other sources. In the same spirit, the program also funds pilot projects to show whether a concept works. And we'll give a couple examples of that later. That said, the program also funds construction, and many times Invest in Cook awards are used to cover the last piece of a construction project and help get it over the finish line. We have funded around 32 projects per year typically, and the average award size is approximately $243,000. I want to stress that the award size can vary though. Last year, the smallest award was $50,000, and the largest was nearly $750,000. Um, the award rate was also 43% on average over the first 5 years of the program, which is really good odds for a grant program. All things holding steady. And this program will fund many different types of projects, including bridge improvements, geometric design for better traffic flow, apologies, I had a glitch. And safety, installation of electric car charging stations, sidewalks, rail station improvements, quiet zone studies for communities with lots of rail, and many other projects. Um, we encourage you to read the program description available on the Invest in Cook website for a more thorough list. We are willing to fund projects in any phase, from planning study to construction. This program is also meant to fund local priorities, even if they aren't always in local jurisdiction. So, for example, the program has provided funds for municipalities to do studies of transportation improvements needed on county or other routes. In those cases, showing support from the partnering agencies is important. Um, project eligibility, project eligibility is broad, but there are items that Invest in Cook doesn't fund. The program is meant for project implementation, so it does not support staff salaries. It also does not pay for capital equipment purchases. Additionally, the program is unlikely to fund projects that are focused on aesthetics over function. While we recognize elements like lighting and streetscaping might come up during larger projects, those improvements should not be the focus of your application. Remember, projects must be in line with the principles of connecting Cook County. A parking lot reconstruction in a commercial area that is accessible by transit is simply unlikely to receive an award. We're looking for great transportation projects that advance the principles of connecting Cook County while supporting local priorities. If you have questions about your project's eligibility, please reach out to staff through investincook.cc@cookcountyil.gov. We will be giving out that email, don't worry. Um, while we have funded projects in support of all 5 Connecting Cook County priorities, we would love to fund more freight projects. Over the years, we've received relatively fewer applications in that area, but the Invest in Cook program is a great avenue to support the region's role as the freight capital of North America. And um, the eligible applicants include local governments like villages, townships, the transit agencies like RTA, CTA, PACE, and Metro are eligible. Natural resource or public land agencies like the forest preserves, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and park districts are eligible. Private, nonprofit, and for-profit organizations may also apply. In that case, the project needs to be proposed in partnership with a public sponsor. An example of that might be a bicycling organization or a Friends of group that applies to help study trails connections in a park district. They would have to work with that park district as part of their application. One last thing to note, we're looking for just one application from each applicant. So if you have more than one worthy project, you're just going to have to choose. Also, we're always seeking first-time applicants with transportation project needs. Now we're just going to go over the mechanics of the application. Applying for Invest in Cook in 2022. The Invest in Cook application is a simple, fillable PDF form available for download at cookcountyil.gov/investincook, along with the project schedule template. To apply, you should fill out that application and the project schedule. And just a note on the schedule, the program is meant to fund project phases that are ready to begin soon. So we're looking for awarded projects to plan to begin work within 1 year of the award. That is, by the end of 2023, we would like your project to have begun or to be moving into the phase for which you received funding. There's a checklist of other supporting documents in the application form itself. Those include a signed cover letter from the CEO, executive director of your organization, showing that the project is a key priority for the applicant. Please also provide a map of the project area that shows the project location. And please provide recent photos. That's a new request this year. And we want to let you know that cell phone images are just fine for images of the project site. We also ask that you attach your most recent financial reports, such as your village's CAFR, the comprehensive annual financial report, to demonstrate your ability to accept the grant funding. And then finally, we ask for a cost estimate for the project. This cost estimate is required if you're seeking construction funding. It's optional for other phases, but it's a good idea if to have support um, for your funding request. And it can be a rough cost estimate. It doesn't need to be technically precise, say for construction, which at that point you would have done the design. At your preference, you can also provide background information from any other plans or studies that you have done. We just ask that you be selective in what you include so that you really focus on the most pertinent information. If you have a plan that your project is mentioned in, only attach the pertinent pages of the plan, for example. And if you are supplying a match, we do ask for a resolution from the board or council committing that funding to be submitted along with your application. Now, when we're talking about submittal. When you're ready to submit, make sure all of your supporting documentation is ready and take care that uploads meet file size limits. Please refrain, again, from attaching entire plans or large engineering documents. Only attach the pertinent pages of the plans supporting your application. The file size limits are listed, again, on the submission form. Once your application form and all supporting documents are uploaded, press submit. You'll receive a confirmation email shortly after submitting your application. If you do experience any problems, you can reach out to us at investincook.cc@cookcountyillinois.gov. Please do not send us your application and documentation via email. Also, please upload the application as the fillable PDF. Do not scan it and submit it. Um, DOF staff assistance is available for Invest in Cook applicants and awardees. If you or your organization need assistance with engineering cost estimates, data gathering, or other application elements, reach out to DOF before you submit your application. DOF is also able to support applicants after your award as well. This might include providing project management and project implementation assistance for organizations if the need arises. Project management could include folding the Invest in Cook project into the DOF annual program. Project implementation might mean supporting an award, prepare a grant application to receive funding for future phases. This assistance is contingent on staff availability, but we make every effort to support our Invest in Cook projects and awardees. And now on to how the projects are evaluated. We perform a quantitative and a qualitative evaluation. I'm going to briefly cover it. The project description goes into this in more detail. We look at a variety of different measures based on the type of project submitted. The data we use to perform the quantitative evaluation comes from publicly available. We've sourced data from CMAP, IDOT, and other reputable sources. Selected to correspond directly with the priorities of Connecting Cook County, and they're also consistent with FHWA and state transportation regulations. After projects are all mapped and sorted by mode, they will be buffered. A buffer will be applied just surrounding the project. The size is dependent on project type. The goal is to better understand the characteristics of the area the project is impacting. The quantitative assessment will be made based on the information in the buffer area, helping DOF gauge a project's specific local impacts. We do have some questions in the application that are meant to help us understand the project benefits. And if you have any questions about how to answer them, please, again, reach out to us. The qualitative evaluation is an integral part of the process. Each application receives an interview with two of our department's staff evaluators who do an in depth review of your application. The considerations for the qualitative evaluation include project readiness and feasibility. For example, we would consider if the schedule is realistic. Are the cost estimates reasonable? Do we have confidence that the project can be done as scoped? And is there any local opposition to the project? We also ask some of our regional partners to weigh in. So we'll request that the RTA, CMAP, and others participate in that application review with us. We also, as part of the qualitative evaluation, review project benefits. This includes questions such as, are the proposed project benefits reasonable? Is the project consistent with existing local or regional plans? What elements of the project are advancing specific priorities of connecting Cook County? We take the leverage ratio into account as well, not which is to say, we take into account the amount of funding that the applicant is able to provide. And that's not just what the applicant themselves are specifically putting in, but also what other sources of funding are being leveraged for the project. Um, that said, low and very low need communities, as designated by CMAP, will be expected to match county funds on at least a one-to-one basis. If you have questions about your community's need level, you can reach out to DOF staff or seek out the CMAP community cohorts. Very high and high need communities will not need a match to county funds. We'll now go into some example projects to give everyone a good idea of what we've funded in the past and how the program has been shaped previously. The first project that we are highlighting is, these are all from 2021, the 2021 program. The first one we're highlighting is a municipal mobility study for the village of Thornton. The Invest in Cook grant of $100,000 will support the village's feasibility study to determine safe and efficient public transportation options for residents and visitors. The village is less than 5 miles from Pace's 352 Halstead route and the Homewood Metro Electric Station, but currently there aren't transit connections from the village to those transit options. The study will allow Thornton and Pace to work together to determine the needs of residents and visitors as it pertains to creating new transit connections. An example of a freight project from 2021 is an Invest in Cook grant of $500,000 that is funding a planning and environmental linkages study for a series of grade separation projects along Western Avenue between the Calsag Channel to the north and I-57 to the south. The Village of Posen has joined with Blue Island and Dixmoor for the project. The study is going to evaluate alternatives that either improve operations at the current crossings or determine the best ways to separate the crossings. The ultimate goal is to improve traffic and ease congestion along the corridor. Pal studies can be costly and grants programs don't always fund these planning and environmental studies, but they're an integral part of many projects being able to receive funding from other sources for later project phases. The invest in the strength of Invest in Cook is that we can fund early phase work for projects, strengthening those future grant applications and allowing municipalities to bring more outside funding into their projects. Um, the next one is a roadway project, a phase one study that will maintain and modernize what already exists on Lake Cook Road between Arlington Heights Road and Route Boulevard. A $500,000 grant will support preliminary engineering work on this strategic arterial. Lake Cook Road serves east-west commuter, truck, and residential traffic to north-south interstate routes. It is a highly congested roadway. The proposed project will address safety issues at identified intersections and improve deteriorated pavement conditions throughout the corridor. The phase one will also look forward, planning for anticipated future traffic needs and expanding transit access. Hmm. I think my screen may have frozen. Okay, nope, I went too far. Didn't freeze. Um, the last example project. An Invest in Cook grant of $744,000 will support construction of an approximately 1 mile sidewalk along the east side of Pulaski Road in Country Club Hills. The new route will join the city's residential areas, Hillcrest High School, and the city's commercial retail area north of I-80. This project was highlighted as an important need in the city's Phase 1 study for the widening of Pulaski Road from Flossmoor Road to 167th Street. And as you can see throughout all of the modes, there's a variety of project opportunities available. And so we're excited to see what gets proposed this year. The Invest in Cook 2022 schedule is as follows. The program launched, our application became available on January 12th. The applicant workshop, where you are at this very moment, is being held today on January 26th. The most important date is that applications are due on March 16th. And then after that, the county will undertake our evaluation phase, both quantitative and qualitative. Those evaluations will be completed in May, and then the 2022 program will be approved by the Cook County Board at the July board meeting. And so from March until July, there will be some waiting, but we are very excited to get to share information about the program. Draft IGAs and award letters will be sent out shortly after the July meeting, so that way project work can begin as soon as you're ready. And with that, I hope I didn't rush too much through the presentation, but we have reached the Q&A. And I did see that there were a lot of questions coming in the chat. And with regard to the slides, those will definitely be available for download. We can also probably email them. Yeah, I think so.
I think what we probably want to do is post them on our Invest in Cook website along with the
Yeah.
webinar recording, and then those will be available to everybody, but specifically for people who signed up for this webinar, we can let them know with an email that they're available for download now.
Yes. I also see a question about please discuss the local match. So as stated in the presentation, low and very low need communities will be expected to match any county grant funds on a one-to-one basis. How if you are a high or very high need community, you will not need to provide a match for your Invest in Cook grant. This is one of the ways we seek to prioritize equity in the program. And it's one of the ways that we try to distribute our projects throughout the entire county, not just to those communities who have the highest capacity to be able to turn in an application. Um, let's see. What are the Invest in Cook priorities for this year? Thank you so much for that question, Richard. As we said, we are eagerly looking for freight applications, but that's specifically because of the four modes that we highlight in Invest in Cook: bike ped, roadway, transit, and freight. We've received the fewest applications for freight. And so we would just love to engage with that space more, knowing how vital the freight sector is to the movement of people and goods in the region, and how integral it is to the overall commerce. Let's see. To go back to the low need or high need community areas, CMAP, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, has gone through all 135 municipalities in the county and designated them to be in any cohort from 1 to 4. A cohort 1 community is a community that is very low need. They are typically a high income community. And a cohort 4 community, yes, thank you, Jesse. The cohorts are listed in the chat, and a cohort 3-4 community, those are communities that might have like higher need, lower average income, lower median income rather, not average. So that's how we designate what a high, low need community is. We use the CMAP cohort designations. Um, Let's see. Jesse, we do have a question in the chat about ARPA funding. And the recent county ARPA report indicated that the program is being expanded with an additional $25 million in funding.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for that question. That is true. The Investing program will be expanded with additional money. However, that additional ARPA funding is actually going to be handled through a separate and somewhat later process than what we're going through right now. So you might think of this as Investing Cook Traditional, and the other part of this is Investing Cook ARPA, whatever you want to, however you want to designate that. But it will be happening through a little bit different process than what we're talking about now. There is another question too about what the Invest in Cook priorities are for this year. I mean, I think I would say that our Invest in Cook priorities for this year are the same as they have been for the past 5 years of its existence, and they're the 5 priorities actually that are part of Connecting Cook County. So we seek to support freight and we seek to prioritize transportation alternatives, transit and bike ped. We seek to promote we seek to promote equal access to opportunities. We look to maintain a modernizer system, and we look to encourage additional investment, very, very much needed investment in our transportation system. So that would continue to be the set of priorities that guides this program.
Wonderful. There's another question regarding pictures. How many are you looking for when it's not a single location, such as a corridor study? Great question. Um, I would say that we are seeking no more than like 2 or 3 pictures tops. And if it is a corridor study, we understand that you can't take a picture of a whole corridor, but if you can give us a picture that sort of like captures the spirit of the corridor, if you're doing a traffic congestion study, take a picture of what you think represents that for the corridor you're seeking to study. So we're just looking to capture an image that is recent of the project area of the location. Those are often useful in both putting together the Invest and Cook project book, and also they will help us in our ability to talk about and continue to publicize these lovely projects in the years to come. Um, publicize in the sense of like, if we want to show someone a picture of a before and after, it provides us the before, and so that's what we're seeking. No specific number, just what works best for the project at hand.
So I'm not seeing additional questions in the chat. Okay, here we go. So we had a more complicated question from a township. I would say just get in touch with us. If you could just reach out through the Invest in Cook email address that we provided earlier, it'd probably be the easiest way to handle that.
Great question. And I don't think it's weird.
That is a challenging question, Carolina.
But it's a great question.
Yeah, that's another one that I think would probably be best handled directly, so we could be more conversational about it. So if you could just reach out through the Invest in Cook way. Are there other questions that are coming up?
Just to reiterate, this session is being recorded to view later, so that will be uploaded to the website for anyone who came in late. Um, and I see another question. If you would like feedback on an application from last year that was not funded, great question. You can, of course, reach out to investincook.cc at cookcountyillinois.gov, and we will talk to you about it. That's actually another thing that sets Invest in Cook apart from other grant funding programs. We always make ourselves available to successful and not successful applicants in order to discuss like ways that we could improve the project's chances for the next year. And so definitely reach out and we can have that conversation. The city of Chicago, yes, the city of Chicago is split into smaller areas for the purposes of determining high need versus low need. So CMAP, in addition to doing every municipality, they've also designated every community area, the 77 community areas, they've designated a need level for all of those. So, and if, for example, you're doing work on the south side of Chicago and you have like 2 high need community areas and like 1 like super low need community area, average, just, I would say the average. Let's see. For nonprofits, are grant available for the paving of parking lots? I unfortunately, so we encourage you to apply with whatever projects are your organization's priorities. However, you know, connecting Cook County, we seek to have a multimodal lens, and that also includes encouraging transit and other transportation alternatives. And as such, like, fully feel free to apply for a parking lot project, but I don't know how competitive that would be, all things considered equally. Jesse, do you have anything to add on that? If great.
No, I think that's a perfect answer. Exactly. I mean, there are several policy priorities that we talked about earlier, and since that is not hitting quite as many of those policy touch points, I think it probably would be a lower priority application for the county. Um, the average amount of applications that we receive each year varies a little bit, and so it's been a high of nearly 100
I
to
have over
around
100.
60 or so.
Yeah.
Yes, right. So it varies a little bit year by year, but we could expect 60 to 70 applications, I would guess, in this year. Any other questions?
Feel like that covers it.
Just giving a moment for this any slower fingered typists we might
That's
have.
true.
Okay. Well, I do
Oh,
hope
we
this
did.
was helpful to you.
Judith pointed out who in the county is responsible for preparing an application for areas that are in an unincorporated Cook County. Judith, to that question, I would reach out to the investincook.cc at cookcountyillinois.gov email address. But also in the areas of the county that are in unincorporated Cook, those areas are also in townships. And so you might end up working with your township roadway district if you don't necessarily have a direct municipal authority to appeal to. But that's something that we can talk more about in greater detail once we know the specific question. And then James, I see that you have a question about number of applications. So um, just to reiterate, each organization, can a municipality team and also submit? Oh, I see. So can a municipality submit a joint application with other municipalities, but also submit an individual application?
James, I don't know that we necessarily contemplated that
We haven't,
eventuality exactly.
yeah, we haven't contemplated. I'm like,
I would say that it's yeah, I would say that it's fair that if you want to go in and if your municipality wants to go in with several other municipalities.
we had a question about the specific match for each cohort. We do not have a specific percentage match for each cohort designated. But if you are a cohort 4 community that is a high need community, thus you would not be expected to match county funds. Cohort 1, uh, low need community, it's a 1-to-1 match. And then for cohorts 2 and 3, we have at times done a sliding scale for the moderate income communities, but typically we adhere to high and very high need, no need to match county funds. That's in line with what IDOT is doing with certain of their projects when it comes to implementing new multi-use paths and things. Um, and so we try to stay in line with that. I hope I answered your question. We just don't have specific percentages designated for each cohort. And to reiterate, this presentation is being recorded. It will be posted on the Cook County Invest in Cook webpage, as well as the CDBG Cook County webpage. And can your feasibility study and project go into the same application, or are they considered separately? Well, Sheila, I would say that because the feasibility study is often a necessary component of any project getting off the ground, I would apply for just one phase at a time. I would apply simply for the feasibility study, and then after that has been implemented and worked through, and you're getting closer to moving into the preliminary engineering and other like phase one, phase two um, costs, you reapply for the project then. And we have over the 5 years of the program, like we've funded a project for their planning study, and then they've come back to us 2, 3 years later, and we funded their preliminary engineering because the project is worthy at one point. What's to say it's not going to be worthy later? So just we're trying to keep it to one phase for all project applicants.
I think we had a question about whether the chat will be visible with the recording. It is our hope that it is our hope that the recording that Teams does for us does provide it. If it is not visible in the recording, then we will pull it actually out of the meeting and provide it by text if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I've been trying to reiterate the questions as we're answering them just to try to make sure that we're getting the chat into the recording, as it were. But yes, exactly as Jesse said, we'll be able to provide the text. Very excited to fund freight. We're excited to fund all projects adhering to the priorities of connecting Cook County. But the county has recently published our ADA transition plan. And so if you have projects or project elements that are specifically focused on increasing accessibility, that in addition to freight is something that we would like to highlight as an opportunity for you to apply for.
Other questions? Going once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you very much, all of you, for joining us today. I do hope you'll take this information back and consider applying for Invest in Cook. It is a program that we're really proud of here at Cook County Transportation and Highways. I think it's done a lot of good, and we look forward to getting a great crop of applications this year to consider. There was a final question about the ADA transition plan that is available in draft form on our website. So easiest thing to do, honestly, from right now would be to just Google it. um, but we can also, if anyone has a hard time finding that, we can also provide that to you if you reach out through investingcook.cc, the email address that we gave you earlier. So again, appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We will be sending these the link to the slides and to the webinar recording a little bit later, a couple of days from now, most likely. And we look forward to all the submissions that we'll get on the 16th of March. And we are going to take a break now. The CDBG presentation is going to begin at 2 p.m. So just rejoin this meeting at that time. Thank you all for your participation today.